Welcome to the Deep Dive. We find fascinating source material and, well, we try to pull out the key insights for you.
Sounds good.
Today we're jumping into Allan Kardec's The Medium's book. Think of it as our guided tour into the practical side of Spiritism.
Exactly. It's the essential follow-up to the Spirit's book, which we know laid down more of the philosophy.
Right. So the Spirit's book was maybe the why, and this is the how.
Pretty much. The Medium's book really gets into the nuts and bolts. It uses spirit teachings, supposedly, to explain the theory behind manifestations, different ways they communicate, how mediumship develops.
And crucially, the problems too, right? The challenges.
Oh, absolutely. It covers the potential pitfalls, the difficulties. It's quite detailed.
Okay, so our mission here for you listening is to kind of distill these core ideas Kardec presents. We want to understand the mediums themselves.
How their abilities work.
The whole range of phenomena they might facilitate. You know, moving objects, seeing things.
Yeah, the physical stuff, the visual stuff.
And we also need to tackle the tricky parts, like deception, spiritual obsession, that kind of thing.
For sure. The goal is really to give everyone a clearer picture of the fundamentals that underpin Spiritism, according to Kardec.
And we're sticking close to the text for this, yeah.
Definitely. We're using excerpts directly from the Medium's book. That includes prefaces from translators like Anna Blackwell, specific chapters on mediumship and manifestations.
And the glossary, too. That sounds useful.
Invaluable, actually. The terminology can be quite specific, so having those definitions helps a lot.
Okay, let's unpack this then. First things first. Who or what exactly are these spirits that the book is all about?
Right. So according to the teachings Kardec compiled, spirits are basically the individual thinking beings who, continue after the physical body dies.
So us, essentially, after death.
Us, yes. The body we have now is just temporary, a material shell we leave behind. But the spirit isn't just naked, so to speak. It has another covering.
Another covering.
Yeah, the perispirit. It's described as a semi-material envelope. Think of it like a crucial link.
A link between what?
Between the spirit and the physical body during life. And then after death, it becomes the spirit's sort of ethereal form in the spirit world.
Okay, so they're not stuck in some specific heaven or hell location.
No, that's a key point the book makes. They aren't confined to some distant realm. Instead, they're said to permeate all of universal space.
Wow. Okay, so they're around us now.
That's the idea. An invisible world that's constantly here, interacting with our own. It definitely shifts away from older concepts, especially when you think about the sheer scale of the universe and maybe other inhabited planets.
And what dictates their experience over there? Is it judgment or?
It's simpler, in a way. Their own moral condition is the key. Their happiness or suffering isn't really imposed from outside.
It comes from within them.
Exactly. It stems from their internal state. Good spirits, those in harmony, naturally find well-being, and as they progress morally, their understanding grows too.
Interesting. And the book mentions angels.
It does. It clarifies that beings we might call angels are essentially just highly evolved human souls. They reach that state through their own efforts, probably over many lives.
So there's a different perspective.
Yeah.
So these spirits aren't just passive observers, they actually do things.
Absolutely. The teachings insist they're constantly acting on our world, both the physical side and the mental side.
Like a force of nature.
That's exactly how they're presented, a fundamental power, and they come from, well, us. Souls who lived on Earth, or maybe other worlds who've moved on.
And it's not like they're all the same morally or intellectually?
Not at all. The spirit world mirrors the diversity here, really. Every level of goodness, malice, wisdom, ignorance, it's all represented.
This idea of an invisible world constantly interacting, it's a lot to take in. How does Kardec handle the obvious skepticism someone would have? I mean, believing in spirits and tables moving.
He tackles it head on. He points out that belief in spirits isn't new. It pops up across history in different cultures, different religions.
So it's not just some fringe 19th century thing.
Right. He asks us to consider why this belief is so persistent rather than just dismissing it as superstition.
What's his line of argument then?
Well, he really challenges the term supernatural. He quotes critics defining extraordinary as supernatural and then supernatural as contrary to the laws of nature.
Okay.
But Kardec, based on the spirit teachings, flips that. He suggests maybe these spirit manifestations aren't contrary to nature's laws. Maybe they're just laws we don't understand yet.
Oh, the unknown natural laws idea.
Exactly. He uses analogies. Think about gravity before we understood it. A heavy object floating would seem impossible, magical. Right.
Or like the telegram example he gives. instant messages across miles.
Would have seemed miraculous, maybe demonic not that long ago. His point is our understanding of nature expands. So maybe some unknown fluid, linked to the paraspirit perhaps, could explain things like levitation without breaking natural law as we know it.
It's an analogy, not proof, but it makes you think.
Precisely. It opens the door to considering these phenomena aren't necessarily physically impossible, just unexplained currently.
Okay, so maybe the phenomena could have natural, if unknown, explanations. But how do you get from a moving table to an intelligent spirit being involved?
That's the crucial step.
Yeah.
The principle is intelligent effects need intelligent causes.
Meaning?
If you see something happen that shows purpose, answering questions, moving deliberately, conveying information, and you can rule out the people present doing it consciously or unconsciously.
And rule out known physical forces.
Right. Then the logical jump is that some other intelligence is at work, an unseen intelligence.
Which Spiritism identifies as a spirit.
Exactly. The soul of someone who lived, now existing in their paraspirit.
And that paraspirit, you said, is the key to interacting with our physical world.
That's the theory. Being semi-material, fluidic, it acts as the go-between. It allows spirits to actually affect matter.
So if someone totally new witnesses something strange, like a table moving, are they instantly convinced? Does it work like that?
Not usually, no. The book is quite astute about this. It says even when newcomers see what seem like clear demonstrations, many remain unconvinced.
Why is that?
Often their expectations don't match what actually happens. They might expect something dramatic and get subtle raps, or vice versa. Their preconceived ideas get in the way.
So if you genuinely want to understand these phenomena, what's the best way, according to Kardec?
He really stresses getting a handle on the theory first. Having that prior theoretical understanding of Spiritist principles.
Like having the right framework.
Exactly. It acts like a lens. If you understand the principles, you're less likely to be baffled by weird occurrences or even by experiments that don't yield dramatic results right away.
Because you understand the conditions needed, the limitations.
Right. And you can spot the subtle details, the nuances, that someone without that background might miss entirely. And those details are often key to building real conviction.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Like trying to grasp quantum physics without knowing basic mechanics. You need the foundation. Now, back then, there were other theories floating around about where these communications came from, weren't there? Besides spirits.
Oh, yes. Two main ones get tackled in the Medium's book. The first was this thought reflection theory.
Which said?
Basically, that the medium was just reflecting thoughts, conscious or subconscious, from the people in the room, like a mental echo.
And how does the book argue against that?
It brings up several points, like how do you explain an illiterate medium writing intelligent, coherent text?
Good point.
Or profound philosophy coming through someone with very basic education, or answers to questions someone only thought about, never spoke.
Or messages in languages the medium doesn't know.
Exactly. All those things strongly suggest an intelligence outside the group's collective mind. The book even jokes, it would be awkward if a nasty message came through, who do you blame it on in the room?
Oh, yeah, awkward indeed. What was the other main competing theory?
The collective soul theory. It was kind of a variation, suggesting it wasn't everyone's thoughts, but just the medium's soul expressing itself, maybe tapping into some universal consciousness.
And the rebuttal to that?
While the excerpts don't dedicate a huge section just to refuting that, the whole emphasis of the book is on the distinct personality and independence of the communicating intelligence.
So the messages often seem completely unlike the medium.
Very often, yes. Different personalities, specific knowledge the medium doesn't have, different moral character. It all points towards an external source, not just the medium's own subconscious.
Let's talk about the early days, the phenomena that really caught public attention. Table turning seems like a big one.
Huge, yeah. Tables moving, apparently communicating. It became a massive fad in the mid-19th century, though the book points out similar accounts go way back, even to Tertullian.
So it wasn't entirely new, just newly popular.
Right, and initially it often started as just, a parlor game, entertainment at parties.
A bit of spooky fun.
Exactly. But some people looked closer. They noticed the movement seemed intelligent, responsive. That's when it shifted.
From parlor trick to potential communication.
Precisely. They started using alphabetical raps from the table, or the table's tilts, as a kind of basic sign language. Slow, clumsy maybe, but it yielded some surprisingly detailed messages.
And that was the proof of concept, almost.
You could say that. Moving from just weird movements to actual information being conveyed, that was the leap. It went from just entertainment to serious investigation.
And these early methods, though slow, led to more efficient ways.
Definitely. They kind of paved the way, showed it was possible. This led to exploring things like automatic writing, which turned out to be much faster and more versatile for communication.
Now, the book gets into other physical stuff, too, beyond just tables. What else?
Right. It details things like objects moving on their own, even floating, and noises like raps.
How are those explained? How does a spirit supposedly move a physical object?
The explanation involves this universal fluid. Spirits can draw on it, combine it with the medium's vital fluid, and use their own paraspirit to sort of infuse the object, temporarily give it artificial life.
Artificial life.
In a sense. Once it's animated like that, the spirit can direct it with its will, using its own fluidic energy. It's not like they're physically grabbing it.
More like saturating it with energy.
That's a good way to put it. And if an object's too heavy, they might even get help from other spirits with compatible fluids. This explains objects being lifted, even thrown.
What about the noises, the raps? Those seem common in ghost stories.
They're described as very common, yes. Simple manifestations. But the book warns you have to be careful.
Careful of what?
Discerning them from natural sounds. Wind, creaking houses, pipes, echoes, even deliberate tricks.
So how can you tell the difference? Potentially.
Genuine spirit noises often have distinct qualities, variable intensity, different tones, seeming to move around without a clear source. Raps can be dry, muffled, loud, soft, repeating in ways that don't sound mechanical.
And how can you be sure it's not just your imagination?
The suggestion is to try and influence them with your will. Ask mentally for raps in a specific place, or a certain number of times, if they respond intelligently.
That suggests an external intelligence.
Exactly. But even if they don't respond to direct commands, it doesn't rule out a spirit. Sometimes, the book says, raps are just used initially to get someone's attention, then they stop once communication is established some other way.
Fascinating. The book also mentions more intense things, right? Like clothes being thrown around or levitation.
Yes, those more startling events, clothes scattered, bed covers yanked off someone awake, people being lifted, they're covered too.
Who does that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Lower spirits.
Often attributed to less evolved spirits, yes. But interestingly, the book also says sometimes higher spirits might do it.
Really?
As a very forceful demonstration, to provide undeniable proof of incorporeal beings and a power beyond normal human limits. The shock value can sometimes break through intense skepticism.
And then there are apports, objects appearing out of nowhere. How's that explained?
The idea is that spirits can envelop an object in their own fluidic substance, making it invisible, transport it, and then withdraw the fluid so it becomes visible again.
So they bring it with them, invisibly.
Essentially, Erastus, one of the guiding spirits Kardec quotes, clarifies the fluid used is drawn from both the spirit and the medium's paraspirit.
Can they make objects pass through walls?
Generally, no. They can make things invisible, but not usually penetrate solid matter. And the objects themselves are formed temporarily from this universal cosmic matter by the spirit's will. It's formation, not creation from nothing.
Okay, let's shift to visual things, apparitions. Ghosts, basically. That's what most people think of.
Absolutely. And the book suggests various reasons why they might appear.
Such as?
To comfort grieving relatives, maybe, to prove they still exist, to give advice, or sometimes even to ask for help themselves.
If they're all around us, why don't we see them all the time?
Good question. The book uses that analogy of not seeing air or microbes. Constant visibility would probably be overwhelming, disruptive to our physical lives.
So seeing them is the exception, not the rule.
Exactly. Specific conditions need to be met.
What kind of conditions?
Usually a kind of fluidic blending between the spirit and the medium, some affinity. Also, the medium needs to emit enough of their own vital fluid, and crucially, the spirit needs permission or the ability to manifest visually. It's not always up to them.
And what do they look like when they do appear?
Typically human form, maybe how they looked in their last life or adapted somehow. Sometimes just lights or flames are seen, considered part of the paraspirit.
How do you know it's not just your eyes playing tricks? Or a hallucination?
That's important. The book says distinguish from optical illusions, like eye floaters. And hallucinations are different. They originate in the brain, maybe due to illness, not an external spirit.
The Medium's book also mentions some stranger things, like bicorporeality and transfiguration.
Right. These are linked to the properties of the living person's perispirit. Bicorporeality is when a living person's spirit appears somewhere else while their body is still alive, but maybe asleep or in a trance.
Like an out-of-body projection.
Sort of. The book sets examples like St. Anthony of Padua. The spirit is still connected to the body by a luminous trail, apparently, but can manifest elsewhere.
And transfiguration.
That's a temporary change in a living person's appearance, maybe through muscle changes or the paraspirit radiating differently. It even suggests another spirit could briefly overlay its fluidic form, changing how the person looks.
Wow. And tangible apparitions. Legionnaires.
That's when a spirit momentarily takes on a fully tangible form, looking exactly like a living person. A temporary, perfect illusion of physical presence.
And these tangible ones, could you actually touch them, feel them?
The explanation is that spirits use a material principle from their paraspirit to seem solid, like the example of a spirit offering a materialized snuff box.
But it's temporary.
Yes, formed from that universal cosmic matter by their will, they can make it and unmake it. It's not permanent matter like ours.
What about haunted places? Does the book buy into that idea?
It acknowledges spirits can attach to places, yes. They might frequent certain locations, but
their mere presence doesn't mean spooky things will happen. And interestingly, they apparently prefer inhabited places over ruins. They like being around human activity.
So the popular idea of haunted houses.
It has roots in real spirit manifestations, the book suggests, but imagination and superstition definitely amplify it.
Okay, let's switch gears slightly. The book talks about frivolous communications. What are those?
These come from spirits described as, well, frivolous, mocking, mischievous, more playful than truly evil, usually.
Like prankster spirits.
Kind of. They might say witty things, maybe even mix some accurate observations with jokes and nonsense. But you can't rely on them for truth.
And serious spirits avoid them.
Generally, yes. Especially if people are actively seeking out that kind of lighthearted, unproductive contact.
All right, let's get into the methods of communication. How does it actually happen? The book lists several ways.
It does. One of the earliest is typology communication through raps or taps.
Like tapping out letters. Exactly. Using an agreed code, like 1 rap for A, 2 for B, the loudness could indicate emphasis. Sometimes table movements themselves were used as signs that semiotics.
Slow going, I imagine.
Very slow, yes. But valuable because it clearly showed the message wasn't coming from the medium's mind, right? It proved independence.
And table turning, or tipping, how did that work as communication?
People put their hands on a table, and the spirit makes it move tilt to indicate letters or spell things out. The key, supposedly, is that the hands just follow the movement. They don't push. The intelligence is in the table's actions.
Then there's direct writing, pneumatography. That sounds pretty wild.
It is considered one of the more remarkable phenomena, writing appearing directly without a human hand holding a pen.
How?
Initially, they thought pencil and paper needed to be nearby, but later, writing appeared even without direct contact. It's attributed again to the spirit acting on matter via the paraspirit and universal fluid.
And spirit sounds.
Yes.
Pneumatography.
That can be two things. Either an inner voice, clear words heard only in the listener's mind, or actual external sounds, like words spoken seemingly out of thin air nearby. Usually spontaneous, not easily controlled.
Psychography seems like the most common one discussed. The writing mediumship.
Yes, indirect writing. The spirit's thought is transmitted through the medium's arm and hand, producing writing, often using tools like a planchette or a basket with a pencil.
But the tool isn't intelligent.
Absolutely not. The book stresses that. The planchette or basket is just an amplifier or focus point. The spirit is the agent guiding the medium's hand. Calling it communication of a basket is missing the point entirely.
So it seems like different people have different strengths, different types of mediumship.
Definitely. The book categorizes them quite thoroughly based on their specific sensitivity or ability.
Can you give some examples?
Sure. There are physical effects. Mediums good at moving things, making noises. Sensitive or impressionable ones just get feelings or intuitions. Hearing mediums hear spirit voices. Speaking mediums let spirits use their vocal cords.
Wow, okay. Keep going.
Seeing mediums see spirits while awake. Some nebulistic ones communicate while in a trance-like state. Healing mediums channel energy for healing via touch or prayer. Pneumatographical ones facilitate that direct writing.
And the writing mediums, psychographers.
Yes, and there are different types depending on how conscious they are while writing. Then inspired mediums receive ideas completely foreign to them. and even musical and literary mediums who channel artistic works.
That's a huge range. It's not just one thing called mediumship.
Not at all. And one person might have several of these abilities. Understanding the different types helps structure Spiritist groups effectively.
How does someone develop these abilities? Can anyone just learn to be a medium?
The book suggests the potential is kind of inherent in many people, but it needs development. Practice under good conditions is key.
What helps development?
Things like good health, moral intention, avoiding selfishness or wanting profit from it. Setting regular times for practice helps too, allows spirits to attune.
Does anything change physically?
Sometimes a person's handwriting changes dramatically as writing mediumship develops.
Can you lose the ability?
Yes, it can be lost or suspended, but it's not always a punishment. Sometimes it's for the medium's own good, or for reasons we don't understand.
Are there dangers in trying to develop it?
Yes, especially forcing it too early, or in people who are unstable mentally or emotionally. Children, particularly, should be handled with great care.
Given how it works, connecting with spirits, are there other problems or dangers?
Several. One big one is the medium's own thoughts and beliefs coloring the messages.
Subconscious influence.
Exactly. Also, a spirit might struggle to express complex ideas through a medium who doesn't grasp the concepts or language.
And the medium's character matters.
Hugely. Like attracts like is the principle. Moral character influences the kind of spirits attracted. Pride and vanity in a medium are major obstacles to good communication.
The book mentions obsession. That sounds serious.
It is. It refers to a persistent negative influence from a spirit that hinders the medium.
How does it manifest?
It varies. Simple obsession might mean the medium knows they're being hassled by a deceptive spirit, but can't easily shake it off. Communications get distorted.
Okay. What's worse?
Fascination. The spirit gains almost total control over the person's mind. They become blind to reason, completely convinced the obsessing spirit is good or truthful.
And the most extreme?
Subjugation. This can involve physical control by the spirit over the medium's actions.
How does this happen? How do spirits get that kind of hold?
The book suggests moral weaknesses or imperfections in the person can create an opening. Conversely, living morally, doing good, attracts good spirits and helps repel negative ones.
But you have to be sure it is obsession, right? Not a mental health issue.
Absolutely crucial. Distinguishing genuine spiritual obsession from other causes requires careful discernment.
Identifying who you're talking to, which spirit, sounds incredibly difficult.
It is acknowledged as a major challenge. Getting absolute proof of identity is often impossible.
So spirits might use names we know.
They might. Sometimes out of affinity, sometimes just as a reference point. But the book insists the name is less important than the quality of the message.
So focus on the content, not the label.
Exactly. The crucial thing is telling good spirits from bad, or less evolved ones. And intelligence isn't proof of goodness.
How do you tell them apart then? By their language.
That's a key indicator. High spirits tend to speak simply, nobly, modestly. Lower spirits often reflect human passions and arrogance, boasting, flawed reasoning.
So judging the message itself is paramount.
Yes, and be aware that semi-imperfect spirits can be tricky clever, but still morally flawed and potentially deceptive. Truthfulness requires knowing who you're really dealing with.
What about deliberately calling on specific spirits? Evocation.
The book discusses this. Spirits can come spontaneously or be evoked.
Is it better to evoke specific ones?
Kardec suggests it can be. Since we're surrounded by many spirits, including less evolved ones eager to chat, evoking a specific, known, wise spirit can help avoid being swamped by trivial or misleading stuff.
Can any spirit be evoked?
In theory, yes, but they might not answer. Free will, spiritual restrictions, various reasons. The motive for evoking matters too. Serious study is good, idle curiosity not so much.
Do different types of spirits respond differently?
Good spirits respond to worthy calls. Mischievous ones might respond to frivolous ones. Higher spirits can apparently respond in multiple places at once.
Can you evoke animals?
Generally considered not possible within Spiritism's framework, different fluidic nature.
What about evoking living people?
Theoretically possible if their spirit can disengage from the body, like during sleep or trance, but they still have free will, might not answer, and deceiving spirits could impersonate them. So mainly useful for psychological study, not reliable communication.
Are there questions you shouldn't ask spirits? Things that are off limits or unproductive?
Yes, the book advises against certain things. Trivial questions, just out of curiosity. Questions designed purely to test the spirit. High spirits tend to ignore these.
What about the future? Can they predict it?
Generally, no. That's not seen as a main purpose. They might foresee certain things or be allowed to reveal specific events, but constantly asking for predictions is discouraged and likely attracts unreliable spirits happy to make things up.
Past lives, future lives.
General themes of evolution might be hinted at, if relevant, but specific details of past lives are rare. Future lives are seen as unknowable, determined by present actions.
What are good questions?
Moral advice, good spirits willingly offer that. Private affairs, maybe ask familiar spirits connected to you. General health advice might be given, but they aren't doctors.
Inventions. Hidden treasure.
Spirits have theories on science, not necessarily better than ours. High spirits don't care about treasure. Mocking ones might give false leads for fun. Descriptions of other worlds usually focus on the moral state there, not the geography.
Okay, contradictions and deception seem like big hurdles. How does the book explain inconsistencies in messages?
It attributes them largely to the vast range of spirits, different levels of knowledge, understanding, morality.
Just like people. So not all spirits know everything or are truthful.
Definitely not. Also, good spirits might simplify things or reveal truth gradually, adapting to the person they're guiding.
Could misleading information actually serve a purpose?
The book suggests it can. Encountering errors forces us to use reason, compare messages, and learn discernment. It helps us learn to identify truth.
So the key is judging the message by its quality. Purity, reasonableness.
Yes, and its consistency with core moral principles and the broader Spiritist teachings. Deception is a risk, but focusing on the moral purpose helps avoid it. Distrust things that don't align with love, charity, improvement.
What about deliberate fakes? Charlatans trying to make money.
The book is blunt about this. Yes, it happens. Anything valuable gets exploited. It warns there are probably way more fake mediums than real ones.
A basis for caution.
Absolutely. Good spirits are said to avoid greed and self-interest. Physical phenomena are easiest to fake, the best defense. A solid understanding of genuine Spiritism helps you spot the fraud.
Lastly, the book talks about meetings and societies. Why are they important?
They provide structure for serious study. Guidelines include maintaining respect, focusing concentration, avoiding idle curiosity, ensuring harmony among participants.
Why form societies?
For the growth and respectability of Spiritism, to share knowledge, compare experiences ethically, they need to guard against rivalry and division, though.
What should they study in meetings?
Comparing spirit opinions on the afterlife, learning from ordinary spirits, too, analyzing spontaneous messages. The ultimate goal is seen as moral improvement, fostering unity and fraternity.
Practical examples are given.
Yes, it even includes rules from the Parisian Society for Spiritist Studies as a model for organization and procedure.
Okay, so wrapping up our deep dive into the Medium's book, what are the biggest takeaways for you and for listeners?
Well, I think we've seen just how complex mediumship is presented. It's far beyond just, chatting with ghosts. The absolute need for discernment comes through strongly.
Judging the messages, the source.
Right. And the moral compass provided by Spiritist principles is central. It's not just about phenomena, it's an ongoing exploration of the spirit world and, crucially, about moral progress.
It really emphasizes personal development alongside the spiritual exploration.
Definitely. It's about understanding these spiritual laws and actively working on ourselves.
Okay, here's something for you, the listener, to really chew on. If you accept even the possibility of this ever-present invisible world filled with spirits interacting with us, how does understanding these principles, the paraspirit moral influence, the different types of communication, how might that genuinely shift your view, not just on life and death, but on how you pursue knowledge, how you think about your own moral path?
It's a perspective changer, for sure.
It really is. Definitely something profound to consider long after this deep dive is over. Thanks for joining us.